There's a moment when silence becomes your sanctuary, when stepping away feels like the first breath of freedom you've taken in years. Listen closely, because what I'm about to tell you isn't just another feel-good story. It's the raw truth about power that lives in your absence. You see, they never taught you this in those self-help books or motivational seminars. They never mentioned how your empty chair could speak volumes louder than any words you ever said. In the quiet spaces you leave behind, there's a thunder that builds, a storm that brews in the hearts of those who thought you'd always be there. They called you sensitive when you felt too much, dramatic when you demanded respect, and difficult when you refused to settle. But here's the thing about being too much. It's only too much for those who aren't enough. I want you to understand something fundamental about power. It's not always in what you do. Sometimes it's in what you stop doing. It's in the texts you don't send, the calls you don't make, the spaces you no longer fill with your presence. Your absence becomes a mirror they can't look away from, reflecting every moment they took you for granted. Every time they reached out and found empty air where your warmth used to be, they felt it. That hollow feeling in their chest, that's the echo of your worth finally registering in their consciousness. You see, people don't realize the weight of someone's presence until they're carrying the lightness of their absence. It's like oxygen. They never think about it until it's gone, and suddenly every breath becomes a reminder of what they lost. But this isn't about revenge. No, this is about revolution. This is about the quiet rebellion of choosing yourself when the world told you to choose everything else. Remember how they used to say you were overreacting? That you were making mountains out of molehills? Now those molehills have become mountains they can't climb, barriers they built with their own dismissal of your truth. Your silence has become the loudest statement you've ever made. Every unanswered message is a period at the end of a sentence they never wanted to finish. Every declined invitation is a reminder that you're no longer auditioning for a role in their lives. You've become the ghost that haunts their achievements, the shadow that falls across their celebrations. Because now, in your absence, they see what they had, and more importantly, what they lost. They see the light you brought to rooms that now feel dim. They notice the energy you carried, the life you breathed into dead spaces. Your laughter, once taken for granted, has become the missing note in their symphony. And here's the beautiful irony. Your absence teaches them more about your value than your presence ever could. In the void you left behind, they're forced to face the truth they ignored when you were there. They're learning that some people aren't meant to be replaceable parts in their machinery. Some people are the whole damn power source. And when they leave, the lights go out. But you're learning something far more valuable. You're learning that your worth isn't measured by their recognition of it. Your power isn't determined by their ability to see it. Your strength isn't validated by their acknowledgement of it. In this silence, in this absence, you're becoming something they never expected. Whole without them. You're the plot twist in their story, the character who walked off script and wrote their own ending. And that ending, it doesn't include crawling back when they finally realize what they lost. Because by then, you'll be too busy thriving in the freedom of your own truth. This is just the beginning of your metamorphosis. The first breath of a transformation they never saw coming. And trust me, what comes next will shake the very foundation of their world. Because your absence isn't just making a statement. It's rewriting the whole damn narrative. In the depths of your absence, something extraordinary begins to take root. It's the kind of growth that only happens in the dark when no one's watching. They thought your silence was surrender, but they couldn't hear the revolution happening within you. Every day you spend building yourself back up is another brick in the fortress of your self-worth. You see, they never understood that breaking points are actually breaking through points. When you walked away, you weren't just closing a door. You were opening a portal to your own evolution. In the space where their voices used to echo, you're finding your own rhythm. That emptiness they left, it's becoming fertile ground for everything you were meant to become. Remember how they used to say you needed them? How they painted themselves as the sun in your universe. But here's what they never saw coming. You weren't a planet in their orbit. You were always meant to be your own star. Your light didn't dim when you left. It finally had the space to burn at its full brightness. And now, in your absence, they're beginning to understand the magnitude of what they lost. They're feeling the weight of every moment they chose comfort over courage. Every time they picked the easy lie over the difficult truth. Every instance they made you smaller to make themselves feel bigger. But you're expanding into spaces they never thought you'd reach. You're breathing life into dreams they told you were impossible. Their doubt has become the fuel for your transformation. Their dismissal has become the foundation of your strength. In the silence between your last goodbye and your new beginning, you're crafting something remarkable. A version of yourself that doesn't flinch at the thought of standing alone. A soul that doesn't need external validation to know its worth. A heart that's learned to beat to its own wild rhythm. This metamorphosis isn't just about becoming stronger. It's about becoming truer. Truer to the voice they tried to quiet. The spirit they tried to tame. You're not just healing. You're evolving beyond their limited vision of who you could be. Every step forward is a testament to what they couldn't see when they had the chance. Your success isn't spite. It's simply the natural outcome of finally being free. Free from their expectations, their limitations, their carefully constructed boxes. You're painting your masterpiece on the blank canvas of their absence. And darling, the colors you're choosing were never in their palette. This journey isn't about proving them wrong. It's about proving yourself right. Right about your instincts, your worth, your capacity for growth. They thought your departure would diminish you, but they forgot one crucial truth. Sometimes the greatest growth happens in the spaces where others used to stand. Your absence isn't just teaching them, it's transforming you into someone who doesn't just survive the storm, but learns to dance in the rain. Someone who doesn't just endure the fire, but emerges as the flame itself. This is your renaissance, your rebirth, your reclamation of everything they said you couldn't be. And trust me, this is just the middle of your story. The part where the butterfly doesn't just break free from the cocoon, but spreads its wings so wide it creates hurricanes on the other side of the world. Your absence is becoming their greatest teacher, but your presence in your own life, that's becoming your greatest triumph. Because in the end, the space they left wasn't empty at all. It was full of possibilities they were too blind to see. And you're claiming every single one of them. Now comes the part they never prepare you for. The rising. The moment when you realize your wings weren't clipped. They were just waiting to be discovered. This is where your story takes flight. Where your silence becomes a symphony. In the wake of your absence, you're not just surviving. You're architecting a masterpiece. Every breath you take without them is a brushstroke on the canvas of your liberation. They thought they were the authors of your story, but you just wrote a plot twist they never saw coming. You've become the protagonist they can't control, the character who refused to follow their script. Watch how they scramble to understand the transformation they're witnessing from afar. Your growth becomes a mirror they can't look away from, reflecting everything they failed to nurture. But here's the revolution they never expected. You're not growing despite their absence. You're flourishing because of it. In the space where their doubt used to live, you're building monuments to your own resilience. Every achievement becomes a testament to what happens when you choose your own light. They'll try to claim credit for your strength, say they made you tough by breaking you. But you know the truth. You were never broken, just bent toward a better version of yourself. Your metamorphosis isn't their success story. It's your declaration of independence. In the silence they left behind, you found your voice, and darling, it's deafening. You're speaking truths they weren't ready to hear. Living realities they couldn't imagine. Your absence became the catalyst for a chain reaction they couldn't control. Every step you take forward echoes back to them as a reminder of what they lost. But this isn't about loss anymore. It's about legacy. The legacy of someone who dared to walk away when staying meant shrinking. Someone who chose the unknown over the uncomfortable familiar. You're crafting a narrative that will inspire others to find their own voice in silence, to discover their power in absence, their strength in solitude. Watch how your story becomes a beacon for others trapped in the shadows of diminishment. Your journey is becoming the map they'll follow to their own freedom. And that's the ultimate power of your absence. It's not just changing your story. It's creating ripples that will transform countless others. You're not just breaking chains, you're forging new paths. Every victory you claim becomes a torch lighting the way for those still finding their courage. This is the revolution they never saw coming. The quiet uprising of a soul reclaiming its power. You're not just surviving their absence, you're thriving in your presence. Each day becomes another chapter in the story of how you turned silence into strength, how you transformed absence into abundance, loss into legacy. Remember this moment when you realized that walking away wasn't the end. It was the beginning of everything they said you couldn't become. Your absence spoke the truth they chose to ignore. But your presence, your magnificent, unstoppable presence in your own life, that's speaking volumes about who you were always meant to be. So rise, Phoenix. Rise from the ashes of their expectations. Spread your wings wide enough to create storms in the lives you left behind. Because your absence might have taught them a lesson, but your transformation, that's teaching the world what happens when someone finally chooses their own truth. And that truth, it's just the beginning of your most magnificent chapter yet. The one where you don't just survive, you soar.